And I welcome this morning David Hain. Good morning, David.
Good morning. It's great to be here, Jeremy.
You survived. I said Metro something else. You say Metro?
Metro joy. God tells us to count it all joy in the midst of whatever is going on. So I had an interesting ride on Metro Joy this morning.
There we go. Now, for those of you listening for the first time, Dave joins me every Tuesday morning at about 10 past 10, but because of Metro Joy, he's joining us later at 25 past 10, and we'll extend this feature, of course. And today we're talking about how do I deal with my grief and bitterness as a result of the addict's choices and actions. It seems like I'm stuck with the consequences. The reason we're asking these kind of questions is because we want to support you and equip you, the family member of an addict or a friend or a colleague, and you're so concerned you would like to help them put back their life together. So we have a couple of SMSs that have come in. You can send through yours now, 083 788 9494, or you can call me in studio right now, 021 788 9494. Dave is here to take your calls, questions, and give you answers you need to know. So Dave, how do I, as a family member of someone who is an addict, okay, living in my home, how do I deal with my grief and bitterness as a result of their choices and actions?
Well, I think initially we do some self-inventory and look at what is causing the grief, what is causing the bitterness. Is it my offense at the things that have been done? Could it be the actual abuse that I've been taking? And so it's, I'm a wounded victim and really frustrated at, how can I survive, and is it even wise for me to stay in this situation? Is it broken dreams? Is it just disappointment at the addict throwing their life away? Is it the extra burden that is on me because the addict is not pulling their own weight in the family? And that can be simply in household chores, it could be financially, it can be in raising children or what have you. So I think initially it's really to sit down, individually, but also with a pastor or with a counselor, to work through what are the causes of my grief. Because truly, in the midst of an addict in the family, we almost go through a grieving process as if someone has died.
Right.
Because when we see this addiction fully blown in front of us, fully birthed, we see at least hopes and dreams die. We see plans that we may have had for the next year or the next decade die in front of us. And I've often had, especially parents, reach a point where they say, my son, my daughter's just dead to me. They're not there anymore. So it's really identifying what is the cause of that grief, so that grief can be dealt with, in a counseling, in a therapeutic way, in a spiritually restoring way, so that you can move forward from there to really look then at what's the best choices to have a healthy and wholesome home going forward.
Should family members of addicts, should we really take responsibility and feel responsible for the failures and the decisions and choices and actions of addicts that leads us to this point where you are saying that parents say, my child, my son, my daughter is dead to me. Do we take on too much of that kind of responsibility?
Yes, we do, because one of the key aspects of people in addiction is blame shifting. So a perfect example would be, even Jeremy, if you and I are siblings, and I'm the one with the addiction issue, when we're in the home, I'm going to try to shift any blame, shift the spotlight onto you, so that if mom or dad or grandmom or auntie want to be yelling at someone, they're yelling at you for the things that you did. Because the more I can shift the blame away from me, then the more I can hide. And it's classic in addiction, especially in a marriage, that the one spouse who is the addict will shift the blame on the other spouse. So it will sound, let's say it's the husband talking to the wife. It will sound like, well, if only you, hadn't gained that weight. If only you, were as pretty as you were when we got married. If only you cooked better. If only you, wagging the finger, beating down verbally abusing the wife, so that she just sort of recoils and has nothing left to really speak the truth. And those words settle in. Our words bring life or death, and those words settle in as death to where the victim of that verbal abuse takes responsibility then and owns the fact that, if I was a better wife, maybe my husband wouldn't have to drink. If I was a better wife, maybe if I took that part-time job, he wouldn't be gambling or whatever it might be.
And that's classically buying into the kind of manipulation that would classically come in those circumstances.
Totally. And it totally sets up the addict then when their addiction escalates to use phrases like, look, I don't have a problem. You're the one with the problem. I'm in control. Can't you see that I'm still in control here? You're the one who's always nagging and yelling and can't handle my lifestyle.
How at one point, because I know that family members, because they are emotionally and spiritually connected, you would naturally feel, you would naturally care for your siblings and for your family members. But at what point do we miss it, Dave, where things get so out of control that we become the abused in the situation, and the addict seems, or it appears as if they're just living this carefree life? At what point do we actually wake up and take responsibility and realize, you know what, if I concede to what is being said and done here right now by stepping back and feeling guilty, then I'm just perpetuating the negativity that is happening here. So at what time, is it too soon to implement tough love?
And I'm not a huge proponent of the phrase tough love, right. So we'll work with that anyway.
We can.
Simply because, and I've worked with tons and tons of addicts, too many addicts hear the phrase tough love,
right,
because it's a popular phrase to use, but when they hear that, they hear, you don't love me anymore.
Right.
If you love me, you would. And they turn that back and throw that back in our faces even more. So I like to talk more about, setting healthy boundaries, setting healthy expectations.
Okay, we're going to talk about those, and we're going to undo the phrase tough love.
Okay.
And we're going to redefine it to make it more friendly, okay?
Sure.
Let's just go to the lines. Good morning.
Good morning. I want to stay anon. Could I speak to Dave?
Yes, I'm here.
Ask him a question. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
I've been listening to you. I'm in the same situation where the blame game has been shifted onto me. It's been going on now for a very long time. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm not placing all the blame on him, but I'm not going to be a sucker for punishment any longer. I used to tell myself, what is wrong with you? Change your personality to suit him. Hell no, I'm not going to do it anymore. God created me the way he sees fit. If I've got I do have my mistakes, but the bottom line is this: why do I have to do things to suit? Marriage is a partnership. It works both ways. And you don't have to be the victim when you know you're not in that situation. So what do I do? Because it's like an endless, it's almost like, you're standing there and you're having a competition with another person and you see who's going to come out tops, that type of thing. Because I've come to that stage just now, right now. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Where I just feel I have to defend myself. Where's my defense mechanism?
Yeah.
You cannot speak to your church people about this. I'm going to be very brief because you must be so careful who you speak to. They make issues out of it, and this is so sad. So therefore, I just thought I want to stay neutral.
Sure, and that's the last comment is very telling. Too often, the church's reaction can make us even feel worse, can make us feel like we are responsible, because we end up being the person that the church says, you need to hold this marriage together. You need to do whatever it takes. You need you. And so it's just a different form of making you take responsibility for the addict's behavior. I think the key for me is you should not have to defend yourself. And if you find yourself in that position where you are verbally defending yourself, you can assume that the longer you do that, the addiction will escalate and the abuse will escalate.
Really? So what do I do?
Okay. So I think the key is to involve a pastor, a counselor, someone who can look at your situation from the standpoint of addiction and marriage counseling. So very, very specifically, as my wife and I work with couples from a marriage counseling in the midst of addiction, we will look at something like the fruit of the Spirit and go through it sequentially. So the very first thing is love. And so we would sit down with yourself and your husband and say, okay, from a standpoint of spiritual restoration, are you at a point where you and God are okay? And so very specifically for you as the abused wife, I would say, do you feel loved? And it would be normal to say, if I hadn't set that up with the fruit of the Spirit, to say, no, my husband, I don't even know if he loves me anymore. So the beginning place for you to find peace and wholeness is to understand that you are loved of God, to focus deeply on that love, to know that God did not make a mistake with you. God did not make a mistake the way you've aged or any of that. God's pleased with you. When he looks at you, he sees his beautiful princess. And so to feel secure in that love, and as I said, to take the fruit of the Spirit sequentially, from that love, then you begin to get joy and peace in your life.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. We need to go to other callers.
But before you ring off, I just want to say something. There's no way. He is so stubborn. Look, don't get me wrong, he's got more good points than bad points. But there's no way he's going to speak to a counselor, unless God is going to intervene. I try. But you know what? We all have limits.
Okay.
I'm human. I have limits. It's not easy. If you didn't find yourself in that situation, you're going to tell me, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. You're living with that particular person. It's difficult. If you don't find yourself in that situation and you cannot, share and be there unless you've been there, then it's always the wife that gets the short end of the stick.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is keep a pen and paper close at hand, because before Dave signs off, we're going to give his contact details, and I'd like you to call him. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go to the next caller. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Dave.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm a scooter here from Bellestown. You know what? I've got my eldest son is on drugs. And, I'm stuck at this moment in my life. I don't know what to do anymore with him because there's no more respect for me towards him, towards me and my husband, and just really.
Okay, Mrs. Coulter, you're breaking up. How old is your son?
He's old.
Okay, Mrs. Coulter, you're really breaking up badly. Maybe you want to call back. Dave, did you get the gist of Mrs. Coulter's question? Okay.
Yeah, and this is a big thing. It is also a very common thing. And I can hear the pain in your voice as you're sharing. And that's a mother's pain with the hopes and dreams and desires that you had for the success of your son, and success just being a solid, healthy life for him. And so I think that the key is to understand that in the midst of that pain, that truly, it's not up to us to change our children when they're grown adults. It is up to us to keep loving them, but it's also up to us to set expectations in the home of love and respect, so that you can be in a situation where you're minimalizing the situations, the circumstances, the frustrations, the aggression, all those things that in the end simply drives a deeper wedge between you and your son. And I think if we talk about the tough love, Jeremy, and I'm not anti-tough love's teaching or anything like that. I just define it a bit differently. There comes to a point where we as parents say to our adult children, even our children that we may still see as youth in their 30s, comes to a point where we need to be able to say, look, it's time that you take a step out on your own.
Right.
It's time that you accept the responsibility. I feel that by allowing you to live here, I'm shielding you from the consequences of these addictive choices that you're making, all these drugs you're taking. And so I'm only helping you get worse.
Right.
And as a mom, I can't do that anymore. As a mom, I want to nurture you and love you and help you feel better.
Yes.
So as an initial step of that, we need to help you find a place where you either get on your own 2 feet or you find the help to get there.
But here's the problem. No mom or dad will see their child on the street if they're not capable or not willing to make those choices and those proper choices and responsible choices and become independent and become clean. So I would argue that many parents and siblings are in a catch-22 situation when it comes to, listen, we need to cut this guy free or this girl free because they need to learn the lesson that they need to take responsibility for the choices that they make. They need to live through the consequences and learn from it. But what if it becomes worse? And I think that is a fear that is not always clearly addressed.
Yeah, and that fear is valid because often it ends up with criminal activity and incarceration. It can end up with overdose. It can end up with moving to Joburg and then losing all contact with them. There are a whole bunch of negative things that can happen. But the problem is all those things are happening in the home now. So if someone has been in and out of addiction or struggling in addiction for years, to keep doing the same thing and expect different results doesn't make sense. And then we also need to think about what's it doing to our health and what's it doing to the other siblings in the home. Because regardless of whether they see all the negative behavior of gangsterism, the negative behavior of drugs and the effect, the young kids growing up on that will become their normal.
Right.
Even though they're saying as young kids, I'll never do that,
yes,
it's still their normal. So when situations hit their life in their teens or their early 20s, they know where to go.
Okay. It's gone 19 minutes to 11 o'clock here on the 9 to 12 show with me, Jeremy Van Wyk. As per usual, every Tuesday at about 10 past 10. We just started a bit later due to circumstances beyond our control today. We speak to David Hain. He's an internationally certified drug counselor. And we're looking at support structures for families. We're looking to equip families of addicts, no matter what kind of addiction your loved one find themselves in. You are, as the sober family member, you also have to suffer the consequences and of their choices and actions. But also a special note to people who are in active addiction today. If you're listening to us today, we want you to know that we love you just as much, and God loves you too, and that He has a plan for your life, and He will heal you if you step closer to Him, okay? And we'll be giving out Dave's number, but we're focusing on the families of addicts at this point in time. Today we're talking about how do I deal with my grief and bitterness as a result of the addict's choices and actions. It seems like I'm stuck with the consequences. Not so, says Dave, but we'll continue to talk right after I've done some of the SMSs. You can also call us now, 021-788-9494, 021-788-9494 if you have a question or comment for Dave, or you can SMS 083-788-9494. If you're really uncomfortable with a public platform, I'll be giving out Dave's contact details before we go off air. An SMS that I received just before 10 o'clock this morning, Dave. I'm a saved Christian for 8 years and married for 22. I've always prayed that God will save my alcoholic husband and never gave up, but he started abusing me 5 years ago, and he even hanged himself a year ago, but all thanks to God, he survived miraculously. He gets good jobs, but then drinks for days on end and stays out of his job till he loses it. He started a new job 3 weeks ago and drank again since Friday, and he's still at home today. I don't know what to think and do anymore because I've tried everything already.
Yeah, and I think two things. One would be to make sure that as the spouse, you're either working with a counselor or a pastor or a group of close friends who understand your situation, who can be encouraging you, who can be building you up, who can be making sure that you are staying whole and healthy and spiritually, in a good place. The second would be to encourage your husband to seek help. Rather than encouraging him to stop or, getting into arguments, just encourage him to seek help, to be able to take a step away from the pain that you feel through his actions, but to be able to express to him the emotions that are going on inside of you. So, for an addict to hear from his wife, I no longer feel secure about the future. But I don't see us being grandparents together.
But do addicts care what they're putting through, their family members through, or their spouse through at the particular point in time? Do they care about the emotional impact? And what if you do go to your spouse or to your sibling and say, you know, this is having a negative emotional impact on me, and the person turns around and says, I don't care. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think the key is to go with someone. Okay, so whether you're with a pastor, with a counselor, or someone, so that doesn't become a blame-shifting time.
Right.
And that's the responsibility, we'll call it, of the interventionist, the person who's there to support. And it would be normal to hear that the addict doesn't care.
Right.
But our trust is in God. And the key is, if they hear those words, they're used to hearing words, why don't you stop? What do I have to do to make you stop? Why can't you just stop? Please, please, you're wasting all our money. But to begin to hear the actual pain that you feel. And there's a move taking place in prisons where they work on restorative justice. And the key behind that is to bring not always the victim and the perpetrator together, but victims and perpetrators together, so that the perpetrator can actually feel, let's say in rape,
Right.
how a teenage girl's life was changed, and now she's in her 40s, still carrying the emotional scars from that rape. And so God works with that stuff when it's not finger pointing, but just saying, these are the effects that have happened to me.
Okay, let's go on to another SMS. Please keep me in urgent prayer. It's some mad marriage problems. I'm still living with a heartless husband. Got to the point of almost having him killed. But because I know Jesus, I can't do it. This man treats me like a dog. He treats a dog better than me. Please urgently pray for my 2 little girls. I took an overdose as well. Urgent prayer needed. Wow.
Yeah, I would definitely say we're at time for intervention. So I would not hesitate bringing someone in who can sit down, especially with you, but then also with the whole family. We need to focus on having a healthy home and a healthy home environment for your 2 little girls, and begin to take those steps so that those wild ideas that are bouncing back and forth, that are not from God in your mind,
Right.
can be dealt with, and we can recognize where the enemy is trying to really rob, kill, and destroy.
Okay, please keep a pen or pencil and paper ready. I'll be giving Dave's contact details, and you're more than welcome to contact him. Dave has had a great response to this feature, and we hope that it grows more and more and more. There's a lot of people hurting out there, and we're here to help. Morning, Jeremy and Dave. I have a brother who is on drugs. He's so bad that he's abusing me and my mom. Seems like nothing is helping. We come from an abusive house. I'm at my lowest point. Looks like prayer's not helping now. I'm tired of fighting.
Yeah, and that's a tough place to be. And so right up front, what I would ask is that you begin to journal your feelings. And some people say, oh, I can't journal, I don't know how to journal, this and that. One of the things that I say, if journaling is a foreign thing to you, then start reading the Psalms, and read a psalm or two, and then sit down and write your feelings, almost like you're writing your own psalm. So I think the key is right up front to begin to capture your feelings each day. And to begin, especially in Psalms, you see that no matter what David's going through, no matter if he's screaming out to God saying, just kill all my enemies,
Right.
He ends with hope and trust in God.
Okay, we're going to go to our last call. Good morning, CCFM.
Good morning. It's Jean speaking.
Yes, Jean.
I'd just like to make a comment. I have a son who was on drugs for 14 years. And he is saved, and he's free from drugs right now.
Awesome.
Married for almost 4 years now. But I just wanted to comment that love is the key, as far as I'm concerned.
Amen.
It was hard. It was very hard. But you have to love them. You don't have to love what they're doing, but you have to love them
I
all
agree.
the time and not give up. Stay on your knees. Don't ever give up. Keep on praying and believe that God will save them. That's the only thing that got me through.
Thank you so much. God bless you. We appreciate that testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
I'm going to try and squeeze in one more call, 021 788 9494 if you want to call through right now. I have another praise report here, Dave. It looks like parents are loving, families are loving the kids out of addiction, which is it's an awesome message to put out there. Praise God. I have my 2 sons back. They were addicted to tick. The eldest is 33. He's graduating from rehab on Sunday the 16th of Feb. The other is 26. Is now 5 months clean. I urge families not to stop loving and supporting their child. That's from Cynthia. We're going to go to a quick last call. Okay, the person decided to put down. We're getting in. Oh, okay, let's just go. It always happens at the end.
Yes.
Good morning, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had a sister, and she was a drug addict. And I prayed to God, and I said, God, please help, please help. But nothing happened. But still, I loved her. Then she got sick, and I said, Lord, is this it? And she got sicker and sicker, and I prayed, I said, Lord, please heal her, because she's my sister. Anyway, she died, but she died in the Lord. God gave me that opportunity to minister to her, and she gave her heart to Jesus. So it's not impossible. Keep on praying, keep on believing, and just love them.
Thank you, ma'am. God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Amen. And I want to agree wholeheartedly with these callers. Love is the key.
Okay. Good morning, CCFM.
Good morning.
Yes.
This is Mrs. High speaking.
Hi.
My son is on drugs for 15 years.
Okay, ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you turn down your radio for me, please? Because we're getting a terrible feedback, and then we won't be able to hear you properly, and we'd like Dave to hear clearly so that he doesn't say the wrong thing.
My son is on drugs for 15 years. My husband is does alcohol. But I can only say to thank you to the Lord, because I serve God, and I'm every day on my knees for them. I love them. It's because it's all about love, Jeremy, love. Irrespective of what they've done to you, they've hurt you, but you got to pray and ask God to bring you through that hurt. To carry you through that hurt so that you can be strong and love them. And don't ever give up, because God will stop them one day. I mean, they're still doing it, but it's only by His grace that I can still say to the Lord, thank you, that I can still pray for them. And if I hear about what the moms have gone through with their kids and their husbands, I can thank God that I've never ever been through what they've been through because of prayer, Jeremy.
Okay, ma'am, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Dave?
Yeah, I just want to react, since we're getting so many great testimonies from moms and wives and things. Part of our goal as we're, making Cape Town our home is really to empower the families who have made it through addiction, the families who have made it through all these trials and turmoils and come out standing strong with the Lord, to empower them and equip them to be able to create groups in their local churches, in their local communities, in the civic centers, in the libraries, wherever they can meet, because it's so key, because the family members that are hurting, their attention is so naturally focused on the addict in the family that they ignore the support that they need. They ignore the encouragement, just the refreshing that they need. And so, ladies, I want to encourage you, the last 4 or 5 callers, you are the people that we're looking for to be able to equip and train to be able to lead groups in your communities, so that this positive message of what God can do in addiction, but also how God can sustain us in the midst of addiction in our families.
Right. So I think here's a prayer task for everybody listening this morning, including myself, including for you as well, Dave, and we briefly spoke about it, is getting the support groups for families of addicts up and going. And we know that God is going to bless that, and God is going to touch and turn people's lives around through those groups. But it's something that you need to pray about, and just partner with us at some point. Dave, unfortunately, I am almost going to be late for news, because I really cannot just stop this feature dead cold, okay? Yeah. But we need you to... By the way, this is the second time, before I go, this is the second time I receive an SMS like this. What about abused men? Mm-hmm. What about them, Dave?
Same thing. My answer does not change. It just, the men are actually more silent about it than the women. So we've been responding to the women. But it is exactly the same issue. So anything that you've heard me say to the moms, I would be saying to the men. You need to make sure that you are getting right with the Lord, that you are getting your support, that you are getting your encouragement, so that you are not going down a road of bitterness, because when that bitterness settles into a root of bitterness in us, then it really affects others. Hebrews 12 says that it defiles many others when the root of bitterness settles in. So men, you need to reach out too. And I found actually men whose wives are caught in addiction really, really being blessed by sitting in on groups that I'm leading of men who are addicts.
Right.
Because they sit there, listen to men saying the same things about their wives that they've heard their wives say about
the
them.
men.
So instantly they know it's not personal.
Okay.
They know it's all about the addiction.
Quickly, your contact details, Dave?
Sure. My landline is 021-782-1117. My mobile is 073-065-0999. And I am on WhatsApp and Twitter. And my email is david.hain, that is HAIN @gmail.com. Our website is www.fromthe2D disciple.com.
Thank you so much. And David Hain will be back with us next week. I'll be giving out these contact details again.